The high priest and the elders bring Jesus to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, seeking a legal execution since they lack the authority to carry out carry out one. On three in verse 3 to 10, Jesus arose. Jesus remorse and death. This remorse and death. I'm sorry, Judas's remorse and death. Judas realizes Jesus condemned, and he feels a deep remorse and returns the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priest. And the chief priest throws when they say they don't want it, he throws it into the temple, and he goes off and hangs himself. The priest uses the money to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners, fulfilling prophecy from Zechariah and Jeremiah. Verse 11 and 26, Jesus before Pontius Pilate. Jesus before Pontius Pilate. Um, before Pontius Pilate, and recognizes Jesus' innocence and tries to release him, offering the crowd a choice between Jesus and Barabbas, a notorious prisoner. The crowd is persuaded by the chief priest chosen Barabbas. They chose Barabbas, so they have chosen Barabbas for for this moment. They choose Barabbas for this. They choose they choose Barabbas over Jesus, and it's condemned Jesus to crucifixion. Judas symbolized, Pontius Pilate symbolically washes his hands, declaring himself innocent, but ultimately gives into the crowd and hands Jesus over to his to be crucified. So he hands Jesus over to his crucifixion. As we know, his wife had told him that be done with the man because she has had bad dreams about him. On verse 27 to 31, we see Jesus is mocked and scarred. The Roman soldiers beat Jesus, mocks him by dressing him in a robe. He gets a scarlet robe, place a crown of thorns on his head, and pretend to worship him. Then they lead him away to be crucified. In 32 to 44, the crucifixion. As Jesus as he's too weak to carry his cross. Simon, a man by the name of Simon of Cyrus, is forced to help him. This man is forced to help him. Jesus is crucified at the Hills of Skulls alongside two other condemned criminals. A sign is placed above his head stating that this is Jesus, the King of the Jews. The crowd, the crowd, the chief priests, and even the robbers mock him, challenging him to come down from the cross if he truly is the Son of God. In verse 45 to 56, we also read in this part here, from noon to 3 p.m. From noon to 3 p.m., darkness covered the land. Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Then he dies. Yet his spirit, at that moment, the temple curtain is torn in two, the earth shakes, the rock splits, the temple, the, the tombs open, signs that accompany his death and point to the cosmic importance. The Sartorian and others witnessing these signs declare, surely he was the Son of God. Many women followers watch from a distance, including Mary Magdalene. 57 in verse 57 to 61. Jesus is now taken down off the cross, and a rich man and a disciple of Jesus asked Pontius Pilate, Joseph of Arimathea. He asked Pontius Pilate, could he take Jesus' body? Pilate permits it, and Joseph wipes down Jesus he wraps him in clean linen and places him in his own new tomb. A large stone is rolled before the entrance. The women stay. The women stay and watch where he is buried. Verse 62 to 66. There's guards placed in front of the tomb. The next day, the chief priests and the Pharisees go to Pilate, concerned about Jesus' prediction that he would rise on the third day. They request guards to secure the tomb and to secure the tomb and seal the stone to prevent his disciples from stealing the body and claiming he has risen. Pilate grants that permission, and the guard is placed at the tomb. Uh, Many times Jesus is declared as we see, many times he was declared innocent by Judas, Pontius Pilate, and even Pilate's wife. Yet he was still condemned and sentenced to be crucified. So as we look around and we see this, we see the execution. So with humanity, this magnitude, the light of this is turned. So now, as we go forth, as we see in Matthew 28, verse 1 through 10, the records of the resurrection of Jesus Christ and his first appearance of the risen Lord to his followers. It brings the message of victory over death and the fulfillment of God's redemptive plan. And here we're going to see in chapter 28, in verse 1 through 4, we see the women, they come to visit the tomb. This is to anoint him as he's there. We visit to anoint Jesus. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary go to look at Jesus's tomb early on the first day of the week, which is Sunday. The first day of the week which is Sunday. Excuse me. Suddenly there is a violent earthquake. As the angel of the Lord descends. He descends from heaven. This angel descends from heaven and rolls away the stone and sits on it. His appearance is like lighting, and his clothes are white as snow. The guards are so afraid that they shake and become like dead men. So they're so frightened that they don't know like what to do. They don't know whether to run, whether to stay, whether to go. They don't know neither way. Verse 5 through 7, the angels announce Jesus' resurrection, and the angel speaks to the women, telling them not to be afraid. He reveals that Jesus, who was crucified, has risen, just as he said. He invites them to see the place where Jesus laid and instructs them to go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen and is going ahead of them into Galilee. So this angel that the ladies that Mary Magdalene and the other Marys have seen, because there were about two other Marys that was there at that moment. The angel tells them to go and tell the disciples. So they run and they tell the disciples. As you read the story, they tell the disciples, and you hear that Peter and John and them run back to the temple to see for themselves because they don't believe they're they're surprised. They run to go see this. As we see in verse 8 and 10, Jesus appears to the women. This time he appears to the women. The women leave the tomb quickly with a mixture of fear and great joy. So this is they're scared at at some point, and they this great joy within themselves. As they run and tell the disciples, Jesus meets them again and greets them. They fall at his feet and worship him. Jesus tells them not to be afraid and to meet, instructs them to tell his brothers, that's the disciples, to go to Galilee where they still will see him. And this is the resurrection fulfills what the resurrection does. It fulfills God's plans. Jesus' resurrection affirms everything he said about his identity and his mission. Uh, it confirms his victory over sin and death, and proves he is the Son of God, as you can read in Romans 1:4. The role of the women as first witnesses. He chooses women who are not regarded as reliable witnesses in Jewish society, um, but to be the first to receive and share the message of the resurrection. Uh, this elevates their importance, and shows God's grace in overturning cultural expectations. So by him using the women, because in Jewish time, women were not during that time, women were not reliable witnesses for whatever incidents that may happen. So now he elevated them to that because of this great thing that happened. Now they are elevated to this point in that period of time. Um, Also, the angel had to tell the woman this transform into joy. The fear transform into joy. The angel tells the women not to be afraid, and they fear, and their fear is replaced with joy when they encounter the risen Jesus. So once they encounter Jesus, their fear is gone away. Um, this predicts how the resurrection replaced fear with joy and life. Um, Here we see the call to go and tell. This is the call to go and tell. This would be sort of like starting of the Great Commission to a point. The women are tasked with sharing the good news, pointing to the ongoing mission, spreading the gospel. The resurrection is not to be hidden, but proclaimed. Jesus is alive and present. Jesus' personal appearance to the women shows he is not only risen, but also near to his followers, offering them peace and reassurance. In this summary of chapter 28, this proclaims the core truth of our Christian faith. Jesus has risen from the dead, and it emphasizes the glory of the resurrection, the faith of those who love him, and the beginning of the mission to share the gospel to the world. So as we have seen, we have read about from Matthew, we have spoke on Matthew 26 all the way to 28. Now we see the difference in the transformation, how the high priest in them had plotted to kill Jesus, but they couldn't do it at that various time. And then they got one of his disciples to betray him. Now remember, Jesus had picked this disciple to as one of the 12. He picked the disciple as one of the 12. Peter and them were fishermen. Matthew was a tax collector. Judas was a man of the streets, or I would say a man of the streets. He was a pickpocket, a robber. So Jesus had picked him. Um, Also in this, we see that, so what we should do with this resurrection that we have, we should embrace this transformative power in life and live as people who have been resurrected with Christ. So what we should be doing is living the same as he has, that we have also too have risen with him. In this conclusion of this, as we reflect on the resurrection of Christ, let us remember that it is not a distant, a distant, distant historical event, but a present reality that should impact our lives. Through his death and resurrection, Jesus conquest conquered sin and death, offering us forgiveness and an eternal life. Uh, may we proclaim this glorious truth and live as witnesses of his resurrection, of his resurrection power. So on this day, as we go forth in a sense, let us take it to an understanding that this day he is risen. And as we had read in the Passover, that's where we get the moment of communion, where we come to the communion when he breaks the bread and gives it to the disciples. Take this bread, for this is my body. Do this in remembrance of me. Also, when he drinks the wine, that is his blood. He shed it for us. Take that in remembrance of me. So all of these things were in the prophesied in the book of Zechariah, in the book of Daniel. We see in Romans. These were prophecies that were foretold in the Old Testament, Now we come to the now we come to the end of this morning services. So just to do some house cleaning, we would like to say the new website that we have is God of Jesus Christ Ministries at churchly.com. Our Wednesday Bible studies is at 8:30, and our Saturday book Bible studies is at 8:30. And this will conclude our service for Sunday, for this Sunday. And I will see you next Sunday, but our next Sunday service will be at 8 o'clock. This one was, I had to do this especially at 7. I thought it would take much longer, but it didn't. And I would like to thank each and every person that was on here and each person that joined me in this early morning service.